You know when you see a play that just completely blows you away? Ever wonder how it gets from just an idea to this powerful thing on stage? Well, today we're going to pull back the curtain and look at the essential elements of theater. We're talking about the secret ingredients, the real nuts and bolts that make all that magic happen. So, what are those secret ingredients? I mean, seriously, if you had to build a play from scratch, what are the absolute must-haves, the foundational pieces? Well, that is exactly what we're going to break down right here, right now. Okay, so first things first, every single story needs a blueprint. Yeah, you can think of it just like building a house. You can't just start throwing up walls, right? You need a solid plan, a framework that's going to hold the whole thing together. And right at the heart of that blueprint, you've got the plot. It's really just the sequence of events, the what happens from start to finish. But here's a cool little tidbit. The word plot actually comes from an Old English term for a plan of action. How perfect is that? The plot is literally the story's action plan. And that action plan, it almost always follows this classic 5-step journey. First, you've got your introduction. This is where we meet everybody. Then the rising action starts building up all that tension, leading us to the climax, the big, exciting peak of the story. After that, things start to wind down with the falling action, all the way to the final resolution. It's just such a powerful way to tell a really satisfying story. But look, a story isn't just about what happens, right? It's about why it matters. And that's the theme. This is the big idea, the main message or lesson the story is trying to get across. And get this, the word comes from the Greek thema, which means a subject of discussion. It's perfect because the theme is exactly what the play wants us to be talking about long after we've left the theater. And of course, a blueprint needs people. You've got your characters, the who of the story, and the dialogue, which is what they say. The dialogue is so crucial. It's like the engine that drives the whole plot forward and shows us who these people really are, from the main hero to whatever or whoever they're up against. Okay, so you've got your blueprint. It's all there on paper. But now for the fun part, how do you bring it to life? Let's jump into our next section and see how all these different performance elements turn those words on a page into a living, breathing experience. This is where the actors really come in and just shine. First, you have movement. That's everything they do with their bodies, from a tiny, subtle gesture to a huge facial expression. It's all about conveying emotion. Then there's rhythm. Think of rhythm as the heartbeat of the show. It's the pace, the timing of the dialogue, and the action. It's what can make one scene feel super frantic and chaotic, and the next one feels slow and incredibly suspenseful. All right, now here's an element that you might not even think about, but it is absolutely essential. And that is the audience. You. Seriously, theater doesn't really exist without people there to experience it. That shared energy in the room, that connection between the performers and everyone watching, that is a huge part of the magic. And speaking of the audience, check this out. It's a fantastic little secret from theater history. The word audience actually comes from the Latin word audire, which means to hear. Isn't that wild? It tells us that way back in the day, theater was really more of an auditory experience. It was all about listening to the story being told. Of course, these days, what we see is a huge deal. That's where spectacle comes in. We're talking about the costumes, the sets, the lighting, any special effects. All those visual things work together to create the mood. That overall emotional vibe of the play. Is it joyful? Is it tense? Is it super mysterious? That's all part of the mood. But that mood, that spectacle, it doesn't just pop up out of thin air, right? Nope. There's a whole team of artists working behind the scenes to carefully build it. So let's dive into the technical tools they use to construct the entire world of the play, right there in front of you. Yeah, think of it like their sensory toolkit. You've got the setting, which tells us where and when the story's happening. Then there's lighting. So crucial. It doesn't just create mood, it literally tells you where to look. Sound is huge too. Music, sound effects, it all amps up the emotion. And finally, costumes and props. They instantly tell you so much about the characters and the world they're in. All right, for our last section, I want to share a little bit of insider knowledge with you. This is like the secret map that every single actor uses to navigate the stage. It's a special language, and it is absolutely fundamental to their craft. So, you've probably heard actors talk about upstage and downstage, right? But did you ever stop and think, why those words? Why up and down? It's not random at all. The answer is actually hidden in the history of how theaters were built. And here it is. See, old theaters, we're talking Shakespeare's time, they had stages that were built on a slant. They sloped downwards towards the audience. This was called a raked stage. So upstage was literally the higher part of the stage in the back, and downstage was the lower part at the front. Simple as that. Pretty cool, huh? But this isn't just a fun fact for trivia night. It has real artistic power. If an actor stands downstage, closer to us, they feel more powerful, more intimate. Center stage, well, that's where all eyes go naturally. And if someone moves upstage, it can make them seem distant, maybe even weak or secretive. It's such a subtle but really powerful tool for telling a story without saying a word. Okay, so let's do a super quick recap of everything. You've got the plot, that's the what happens. You've got the theme, that's the why it matters. You've got the characters and the dialogue they speak. And then you've got the spectacle and the setting that build the world we see. Every single one of these pieces has to work together to create one single amazing experience. Wow, we've gone all the way from the basic blueprint to the performance itself, and even to the secret language of the stage. You now have the fundamental building blocks of theater. Which leaves me with just one final question for you. Now that you know all the elements, what kind of story would you build?